it's like everything I've done, it's really been a very organic approach. There's no blueprint for anything like I'm going to do. Okay, well, playing black metal might be fun. No, it's just like, I want to do this because I can feel it. I can kind of step outside the whole thing and go, oh, this guy's been on some cool records. But besides that, no, I don't really think about stuff too much. I just do it.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com. I am super stoked to be joined by literally one of my childhood heroes, Dan Lilker. Hopefully, I didn't embarrass myself there. How you doing, pal?
All right, how's it going? No, you just
You
embarrassed
know,
me. Okay.
oh no, it's okay. I have fanboyed out a few times in like 20 years of doing music journalism after like 15 years of unsuccessfully doing bands, and only one person made fun of me in jest. Nobody ever, was uncool about it. So I'm allowed to have my fandoms. I grew up with Anthrax. I'm from New York City. I live in San Francisco now. So literally I have been watching you your whole career from the time I was like 10, 11, 12, 13. So yeah, good times. And we're here today to talk about the re-release of your memoirs, which even when it came out, I was surprised you did a memoir. We'll talk about that. Perpetual Conversion. I'm going to read it off the screen so I don't fuck it up. 30 years and counting in the life of metal veteran Dan Lilker, written by Dave Hofer, and who is not here, but maybe he'll show up. If not, that's cool. Dave is very cool. First things first, just to go, I know we got the re-release and you just did the awesome signing at Generation Records with our homie Drew Stone, which I heard went really well. Going back, like you've done so much, and I know you're, not particularly, I don't find you to be super nostalgic, but like what made you want to put your memoirs down and collect? What did Dave pitch you on to put this book together?
Dave, who might be texting because I was about to say I'm going to see where the fuck he is. But
It's all good.
what's he doing?
No, it's
Oh,
all good. He's not here yet, but it's cool if he
oh, it
pops
says
in. If
he's
not, that's all
waiting.
right. Is he? All right,
Okay,
hold on.
well,
Oh, here he comes. All right, I got him.
no
Fucking
worries.
Zoom. Luckily, my partner's gonna edit this. We'll welcome in. All right.
And ding dong.
Ding
There he
hey.
is. Nope, there he went. There he
Nope,
is.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's queued up to go on whoever's talking the screen. So like that's easy. That way we don't get over talk and confusing ourselves.
Right.
So just to catch you up, Dave, this is going to get edited by my partner, as I like to say all the time. This is also your interview, not my interview. Also, I know we have precious time, so I'm going to make good use of it. And what I
Cool.
just asked Danny for the first question, and you can follow up on his answer, which is, what made you want to write your memoirs in the first place? I know this is the new edition of the original.
Well,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I wasn't
oh, I
sure if
didn't
you'd
get to my answer yet, but it's going to be basically, we've done a couple of these now, and basically by the time I see it, he goes, "Yep, that just about covers it." But anyway, I never had any plans to write a memoir, but I was encouraged to do so by somebody who volunteered to do all the hard work and make that happen, and that's Dave. So, I mean, we met, he was doing merch for Brutal Truth. So we met in the late noughts, whatever you want to call that now. And just the topic came up because I think I was just entertaining people. We were like in some long van ride or maybe just sitting around backstage with hours with nothing to do. And I might have been telling amusing stories about some of my experiences on the road. And somebody might have said, "Dude, you should write a book." At which point I would have said, "No, I'm way too unorganized to do something like that." And that's when Dave said, "I'll do it." And there we go.
Yeah, that pretty much is the long and the short of it. We got back from the tour. This is 2008, and I just emailed Danny and was like, "This book idea. I am organized, at least to an extent. And obviously, I was a fan. I had a working knowledge of his career already and a background in metal writing. So yeah, I just pitched him the idea and he was open to it. And we were just, off to the races after that.
Amazing. Nice to meet you formally, Dave. I definitely bought a shirt from you or a patch or something, probably at one of those Brutal Truth shows or somewhere
Awesome.
else along the line. Yeah, definitely got a familiar face. I have a very forgettable face. I've been told I have a face for radio. I never expected to do videos, but here we are with a YouTube channel and everything and other things. But yeah, man, I really love the book the first go round, and so we have a new edition of the book with some added stuff to it, and I'm excited because I think Dan, just I'll take my fan bias and my New York City bias aside for a second and say I feel like you have an inherently fascinating career, because even Metal Archives, who is like one of my go-to sources for band stuff, barely has all your bands. Like you and Tony Bennett probably have like the most records of all time.
Well, that's good company.
I think so. I just feel like you've, beside the live work, which I've also seen you with other bands live, just kind of filling in or joining or helping, but like your recorded output is insane in terms of like historic metal releases. It's crazy. You ever think about that?
Well, sure. I mean, if I were to look, like have an out-of-body experience and looking upon it in a neutral way, then I guess then the back catalog of records I've been on would be considered impressive because, some of them have kind of been groundbreaking in their own ways, but I never thought about that when I was doing those records. It's just really tunnel vision, just straight ahead, just doing stuff. And perhaps it's just my short attention span that drove me like, all right, I'm getting bored with thrash. I want to play grinds, but I want to play fucking intense grind. We're not going to dick around here, and I don't know. It's like everything I've done, it's really been a very organic approach. There's no blueprint for anything like I'm going to do. Okay, well, playing black metal might be fun. No, it's just like, I want to do this because I can feel it. And yeah, like I said, I can kind of step outside the whole thing and go, oh, this guy's been on some cool records. But besides that, no, I don't really think about stuff too much. I just do it.
Right on. That's the process. I like the fact that it always seems like it's you and friends until you're not friends anymore, like every band. Uh, but it does always seem to be like, always strikes me as like you're working with people you would want to be a fan of also, like not just, I want to make cool stuff with, my friends. And I think that's, there's no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow for most people, even in a 40-year career in metal. We're all pretty humbled doing what we do out of love for the most part. So I like the approach there. And then I wanted to say for Dave, I love the approach of the book because like I'm shocked at the recall of some of these musicians who have been touring for the same amount of time as Dad and definitely on substances and alcohol and their memory. There's a lot of great stories and recollections here that I was like honestly surprised at.
Yeah, I mean, Dan has a great memory, and he is a notable figure. So I think people that interacted with him, I can't think of really any negative recollections. And generally people that I approached, they came up in conversation with Dan and I for maybe not like there's some like very specific reasons, but they would have things in common, like, is something very broad to being like John Connolly, who was also in Nuclear Assault, a very like obvious sort of connection. But then, one of my personal favorite additions in the book was I tracked down John Brown the second, who was in this random like drum machine grind band called Monostat 7, whose album Danny produced. And I loved Relapse in the 90s. I mean, I still do, but that came up in conversation, or I may have even like made it a point to ask Dan about like, yo, you're listed as the producer on this Monostat 7 CD. What's that all about? So when you go to John Brown and ask him, hey, Danny Lilker produced your album. What can you tell me about that? Like, people tend to remember that stuff. It wasn't like, oh, that experience was lost to the fog of time or whatever. So yeah, it was, generally like pretty pointed questioning for all of these people.
Those guys were
Right
from
on.
Wyoming, man. I'm thinking any excuse to get the fuck out of there and go down to Colorado and do a record must have been great. I'm kidding. I have nothing against Wyoming.
Ouch. I don't know. I heard it's beautiful, especially in the summer. And winter, I'm not so sure I want to deal with that. One more for Dave before I kick it back to Dan. I think it's really interesting. Did you, as a metal nerd, and I, not to humble brag, I have a minor in my whole career. I also did a musicology degree before I became a journalist. So
Oh, okay.
I'm super nerdy about my family trees and my bands and all that stuff. So did you aim to be as comprehensive as possible, or did you like, I want to cover as much as I can?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing. We just, I don't know, just we just went chronologically, and I just tried to get everything in there. It's like, you read some music or whatever, even just like any kind of history books, but any like music books, And I tried to avoid the thing where it's like, oh, then we record, Nuclear Assault recorded Game Over, and then we went on tour, and there's no like details about the recording or like stories. So I tried to avoid that kind of like sort of like stereotypical pitfall where things are just sort of glossed over. We tried to get as in-depth as possible, yes.
And Dan, did you think that that would even be possible with all this? Have you forgotten stuff you were on that this book reminded you of?
Well, it was when we did all the stuff for the book, he would come over to Rochester from Chicago and we do these hefty interview sessions. And so sometimes the questions he had would remind me of stuff, but we also took advantage of the fact that I have a lot of stuff I collected over the years, like cool tour posters, laminates, tour books, all sorts of crap that was really helpful in just jogging our memories, my memory in particular, about certain, because I see a tour poster and then you remember, oh yeah, this was with Exodus in 1989. It's got all the cities and the dates. And then you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that show. And then just a lot of that stuff really helped. So without all that, it would have been difficult to just remember everything I've done for like the last, even then, 30 years when we were doing the most of the go round with it. But yeah, that stuff helped a lot, put it that way.
Nice. I'm just gonna keep you on mute, Dave, until I'm ready for you again, just because there's some sound going on around here. But I got you. I'll clue you back in when it's time. I promise. So that's awesome. Thank you, Dan. One thing that, by the way, I think that '89 tour, I saw that tour at the Ritz. I definitely was not old enough to get into the Ritz, but I looked older than I was in high school with my long ass hair. One thing that's always struck me about you, Dan, is like every time I've ever met you or watched you engage with other people, you're just very chill and relax. I don't know if you ever had any, stress or anxiety on tour or the day of a show, bad mood thing, but I've never seen it. And I think everybody I've ever asked about you has said the same thing, that you're a pretty sterling guy, which is, rare in this business. People tell me, oh, it's, 1,000 faces, a million shows, but I feel like it's a very, especially underground music. It's a very small community. If you fuck up and have a bad reputation, it goes forever, right? So I don't know if you attribute being a cool guy to anything, but I'm thankful that you have been very nice to me whenever we met in the past or talked.
I think that's just who I am. I mean, I am not a big attention seeker. I'm a pretty chill person and kind of fit the bass player profile in that aspect. And yeah, people have said it, how do I describe this? I'm aware I've accomplished a lot, but I don't let it go to my head and then act like my shit don't stink. There you go. I'm just normal person, I guess, who's been on lots of good records, whatever.
I don't, of course, this thing is not. There we go. I unmuted Dave, thankfully. I was gonna say also, Dave, did anybody's recollection of Dan surprise you?
I feel like the only thing that sort of surprised me, which I guess wasn't really like a surprise in retrospect, was talking to Barney from Napalm Death about the S.O.D album, and he was pretty much like, well, I mean, I included it on purpose as, that album was and still is pretty divisive. Like some people got it, some people did not, or some people got it and just still didn't like it. And he kind of fell into that category, where, his recollection was sort of like, oh, I heard the music before I knew what the lyrics were and was just like, this is catchy and very heavy. And then saw what the lyrics were and was kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. And I felt that was important to include because, not everything is, just universally agreed upon. And it's not like he was saying, oh, I wish this was never recorded or something. He was just kind of like, some people might see that as kind of fucked up, which is true, but it just takes a certain sense of humor, I guess, to sort of understand that album. But yeah, I mean, I even have something in there, I don't know, in one of like the chapter intros or something where it was pretty much just universal that anybody I talked to there was nobody that didn't want to, first of all. And then anybody that I did talk to, just one thing that was universally agreed upon was that people just like Dan. He's just a nice guy, like you were saying, and a funny guy, and just about as real as it gets. So there wasn't anybody that was like, oh, nah, like he did me dirty. I even reached out to Neil Turbin at one point, who did agree to talk to me. And then he just kind of stopped answering my messages. But whatever, that story is, I think, pretty much known at this point. So,
Oh, that's too bad. I would like to have heard from Neil about Dan. Maybe time has softened his views, but life gets in the way, right? And then Dan quickly followed Neil out of Anthrax, by the way, as people know. So whatever. But that's like one of the rare times Dan was shown the door anywhere, right? Because I think if you show up and you do a good job and you're a good citizen, you keep your job forever if you want it, or as long as a band can last, right? Brutal truth. Like 25 years as a band, S.O.D off and on for many years. I think it's a testament to you that Dan, that you're able to, pop up in all these places and contribute. And I don't think enough people talk about you as a bass player. I don't think a lot of people know that you also play other instruments besides guitar and bass. But I don't think people, as a retired bass player, I don't think enough people give you enough credit for your bass work, actually, for being a great bassist.
Oh, well, thanks, first of all. And well, I play bass mostly the way I kind of act, which is, my personality, which is not flashy and showy. I certainly have the talents if I wanted to throw a lot more shit in, but it might not be appropriate. That's what's fun about playing black metal. You could play all these counter harmonies under the melodies and do all this really interesting shit that only a bass player could really do because you're not stuck doing these fucking tinny chords. You can move around and do some shit. But yeah, I don't think I'm a bass player's bass. I'm not, Alex Webster or anybody like that, but I do what's required of me with the music I've played. And I've gotten, some of those polls like year ends, blah, 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 British Magazine, top 50 bass players in metal, and I've made it and stuff like that. So of course that's flattering because sometimes those are just popularity contests. I don't know how stuff it always has to do with talent per se, but that doesn't matter. No, I mean that's all fine with me. I don't expect to be on the cover of like Bass Player magazine or anything like that. I just do what the fuck I do.
Right on, right on. Was it fun for you to help out Anthrax and go on tour with them after all these years and maybe relearn? They're playing like a pretty much oldie set anyway, with not much newer stuff. So was it fun for you to kind of relearn that stuff and hang with those guys and reconnect with Charlie and Scott?
Yeah, definitely. I got an offer in late February and I had about 5 weeks to get it together. Most of the shows were in Latin America, from Mexico all the way down to Chile, and then a couple of those US fests in Orlando and Columbus, Ohio in May. But yeah, it's fun music to play. Them dudes are cool. I got to know Joey and John, the guy who's been playing guitar for them in 10 years, who's also in Shadows Fall, great dudes, because obviously Scott and Charlie I interacted with more and in other bands. But yeah, all in all, that was a really fun time. And I appreciate those guys gave me that offer. There's actually one picture in the back of the book that's from this year of us dicking around on stage in Chile after the show.
That's a lot of fun. I do have one more question for Dan that I'm going to then kick to Dave for an answer. I know we're starting to run short on time, and I'm going to be respectful of that. But obviously, like we were talking about S.O.D before, it would be really hard to put that record out today. I'm sure you don't regret it. It's a landmark. I love it personally. I know it, again, like Dave said, it doesn't rub everybody the right way, but that's music. It's supposed to challenge you. Do you have any records you'd like to take back for whatever reason you wish you didn't put out? And do you have a favorite? And I'll ask the same of Dave.
There are two records, but they were records that Nuclear Assault did when I was not enjoying it at all. So it's not because the records are horrible, but I just shouldn't have been on a record that I wasn't into doing. And that would have been the last record, Mach 1, which was out of order, which was kind of out of order because I was already into doing Brutal Truth by then, and my interest in thrash had waned. And then we kind of did this comeback record in 2005 called Third World Genocide that I also think is not very good. And I think there's not a lot of thrash on it. And I think it was almost the same thing where we'd be doing stuff for a few years and just my heart wasn't in it. So I didn't wave any flags like, hey, there's not enough thrash there. I said, all right, whatever, let's just go do this fucking record and whatever. And that's not why you should play music. But no, I don't have any regrets about anything that could be controversial. No, S.O.D, all that. And, Barney's a great guy. And that's exactly how he is. He'll tell you, I think lyrics like that are tasteless. And me and Barney are bros. And I'd rather have that than somebody, sniping around behind your back saying, I love that stuff. And then, not being honest with you. But besides records like the two I mentioned, that it's more about both of those times being a period in that band where I was just not into it at all, and I should have just made a move already, or whatever happened in the mid noughts. Yeah, that was just a weird time for all that stuff.
It was such a weird time for everything, you know?
Mhm.
Dave, I'll kick it to you and see if do you have a favorite Dan release, or a release that in the making of the book you reconnected with that, still resonates for you?
I mean, I'll go with kind of a twofer here because Dan has heard this countless times now, but the S.O.D Live at Budokan album, not technically like a studio album, but that was a huge video for me. And then I bought the cassette so I could have it in the car. But in terms of like a studio album, I'm a Sounds of the Animal Kingdom guy.
It's a bizarre record.
It's
Yeah.
such a fun. It's so fun though.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm just gonna wrap with this. I'm so appreciative of the both of you for coming on today, and for this book. I don't think underground fans get this kind of raw honesty from somebody that's been around this long, and hopefully it shows the way to others about how to comport yourself in this business, and how to be a great professional musician. But I would say, like, weirdly, just for me personally, three particular shows that I always remember we interacted at. I saw Total Fucking Destruction, which I think you were kind of more of a live guy there, at Castle Heights. Rest in peace to Castle Heights. And I think it was Mastodon's first U.S. tour, and I heard some not, even though I love those guys, I heard some not great things about them on their first tour, how they were acting. But you guys were the headliner, and you fucking slayed. I saw you with Lockup about 12, 13 years ago in Boston, at a place that's also not around anymore, and I was hanging out with my homie Liz Brenner, who put this interview together, and of Earsplit PR. And we were hanging out watching you on the side of the stage, and like, holy fuck, you and Nick Barker as like in a playing the Lockup material. And I was lucky enough to be at the Speak English or Die Platinum record show at CBGB's, one of the last ever shows at CBGB's before they closed. And I don't know, I doubt you would have any recollections of the two other shows, but I don't know if you had any memories of the S.O.D. I was like, I'm never going to hold a platinum record ever again in my life. They're like, you want to take a picture with this? And I think I took a picture with my friends. I took a picture of my friends with the record instead. You have a platinum record and a couple of gold ones. It's impressive nonetheless, even if you don't care about such things.
They're not real platinum records, dude.
Uh,
But I don't. Well, I didn't mean to burst your bubble, but
oh, it's okay. I know it was like a record. It was a Century Media thing at the time, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a thing for them to promote the show. But I thought it was fun.
Uh-oh, too many cats.
Oh, we like cats.
Oh yeah, we do. It was almost there. Sane. Yes.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, like I said, the success for some of those records speak for themselves. And even after you were out of Anthrax, and they continue to use some of your stuff, and obviously again Nuclear Assault, I thought like the comeback for them, like even the little like last hurrah before the breakup was nice for fans. I mean, I hope it was nice for you. It was nice for us, and so thank you for that. And yeah, I'll let it go there. Thanks so much for this book. Best of luck on everything. I hope you guys keep having a lot of success promoting it. And Dan, if you got anything else you're working on, we'll be sure, anything in the background you're going to pop up on, we'll be sure to share it.
Nothing yet, but cool. Thanks very much, and
Yeah,
we'll see you out there in the ether.
indeed. Thanks so much, both of you. Hang in there. We'll see you soon. Take care.
All right. See you, man.